As the Engstho fleet disappeared into deep space, Earth entered a new chapter in its history. The lost star became a symbol of hope and possibility, floating in orbit as a constant reminder of humanity's incredible heritage. Every night, people could look up and see its magnificent shape glowing against the stars, like a guardian watching over its home. The exploration team's return to Earth was unforgettable. They weren't celebrated as warriors or soldiers, but as pioneers who had unlocked humanity's greatest mystery. In interviews, they told stories about their first moments inside the ancient ship, how it felt to realize that everything they thought they knew about human history was just the beginning of a much bigger story. Countries that had once been enemies found themselves working together with a new sense of purpose. The Lost Stars database showed them that humanity's greatest achievements had come through unity, not division. Scientists from different nations shared their findings freely, understanding that the knowledge they were uncovering belonged to all of humanity. Schools around the world buzzed with excitement as children learned about their species' true past. Young students who had once dreamed of becoming astronauts now had proof that space exploration was in their blood. Teachers noticed how their students' eyes lit up when they talked about the ancient Terran Empire, asking questions about what other secrets might be waiting to be discovered. The Lost Stars' advanced technology began to change daily life in subtle but important ways. Using the ship's clean energy systems as a guide, engineers developed new power sources that didn't harm the environment. Doctors studied the medical bay's equipment, finding ways to adapt ancient healing techniques to modern hospitals. Farmers learned methods of growing food that could help end world hunger. But perhaps the most meaningful change was in how people saw themselves and their place in the universe. The knowledge that their ancestors had once been peaceful guardians of the galaxy gave humanity a new sense of purpose. Instead of fearing what might be out there among the stars, people began to see space as a familiar place, somewhere their species had once called home. The team that discovered the lost star continued their work, training others to understand the ship's systems. They knew they were just scratching the surface of what the vessel could teach them. Every day brought new discoveries, each one fitting perfectly into humanity's growing understanding of their heritage. It was like solving a huge puzzle, with each piece making the picture clearer. Other alien species began reaching out to Earth, not as conquerors, but as old friends rediscovering a long-lost ally. They shared stories about how the Terran Empire had helped their civilizations grow, protected them from threats, and taught them to reach for the stars themselves. Earth wasn't just rejoining the galactic community, they were coming home. The Lost Stars AI continued to guide humanity's progress, revealing new information when the time was right. It was like having a wise teacher who understood exactly how much knowledge people could handle at once. The ship wasn't just a piece of technology, it was a bridge between humanity's past and future. As the first year of this new era came to a close, humanity stood at the beginning of an incredible journey. The fear and division that had once seemed so important faded away as people realized they were part of something much bigger. The night sky wasn't a barrier anymore, it was an invitation to reclaim their place among the stars. Looking back at Earth from the Lost Stars observation deck, the exploration team's commander summed it up perfectly. We didn't just find a ship under the ice of Europa. We found ourselves, who we once were, and who we could be again. The stars aren't just lights in the sky anymore. They're beacons, calling us home. Within hours of the Engstho's message, Earth changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Scientists who studied the alien historical records found more incredible revelations. Ancient star maps showed thousands of worlds that humans had once called home. Trade routes stretched across the galaxy, connecting civilizations that had all known Earth as the heart of something remarkable. The team aboard the Lost Star made another amazing discovery. The ship's database contained locations of other hidden bases, not just on Europa, but throughout our solar system. There were sleeping outposts on Mars, Venus, and even in the rings of Saturn. Each one held different pieces of humanity's forgotten technology, waiting to be found when the time was right. People around the world reacted to these discoveries in different ways. Some danced in the streets, celebrating humanity's newly revealed heritage. Others sat quietly in their homes, trying to understand how their view of human history had changed so completely. Teachers had to explain to their students that all the history books would need to be rewritten. The most touching moments came from ordinary people sharing their thoughts on social media. A baker in a small town posted about how knowing their ancestors had done such amazing things made them believe anything was possible. A group of kids started drawing pictures of the lost star, imagining themselves as future space explorers. World leaders gathered in an emergency meeting to discuss what this meant for humanity's future. The HFY had shared information about current galactic politics, maps of trading routes, and details about other civilizations humanity would soon meet. It was like Earth had suddenly been given a guidebook to the galaxy they never knew they were part of. The exploration team worked tirelessly to understand more about the lost star's systems. Each new discovery showed them how advanced their ancestors had been. They found plans for clean energy systems that could power entire continents, medical technology that could cure almost any disease, and farming methods that could turn deserts into gardens. But the most important discovery wasn't about technology at all. In the ship's library, they found records of why the ancient Terran Empire had been so respected. They hadn't ruled through fear or force, they had been protectors, teachers, and helpers to younger civilizations. The Lost Star wasn't just a warship, it was a reminder of the responsibility that came with great power. Universities worldwide started creating new departments focused on studying humanity's true history. Researchers began looking at ancient ruins on Earth with new eyes, wondering if there were more clues about their spectacular past hidden right under their feet. Every archaeological dig now had the potential to uncover links to humanity's time among the stars. The team noticed something else too. The lost star was still teaching them. Every day, it revealed new information, but only as they were ready to understand it. It was like their ancestors had created a perfect teaching system, ensuring their descendants wouldn't be overwhelmed by too much knowledge too quickly. As night fell on that incredible day, people everywhere looked up at the stars with new eyes. Those distant points of light weren't just beautiful mysteries anymore. They were places humanity had once known, places they might soon visit again. Parents told their children that the bedtime stories about reaching for the stars weren't just dreams anymore. They were memories of who their people had once been, and a preview of who they might become again. A new message arrived from the HFY flagship, completely different from their earlier threats. The team watched as their screens displayed the translation. The aliens were speaking with a mixture of fear and respect that no one had expected. They called Earth the cradle of the Guardians and referred to humans as the children of the Empire. The alien commander's voice trembled as they explained what the lost star meant to their people. Through countless generations, stories had been passed down about a civilization so powerful that they could reshape galaxies. These weren't just stories about strength, they were legends about a race of beings who had protected the weak and maintained peace across thousands of star systems. The exploration team listened in amazement as the HFY revealed more. This ancient civilization had been known as the Terran Empire, Earth's own people. For thousands of years, they had been the peacekeepers of the galaxy, using their advanced technology not to conquer, but to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. As the message continued, the team began downloading historical records from the HFY database. Images and videos showed ancient space battles where ships like the Lost Star had fought against massive invasion fleets, protecting peaceful worlds. The Terran Empire hadn't just been powerful, they had been heroes to countless species across the galaxy. The most surprising part was how the aliens described the end of the Empire. There had been no great defeat, no final battle. The Terran Empire had simply vanished. Thousands of years ago, they had withdrawn from the galaxy, leaving behind only legends and stories. Some believed they had evolved beyond physical form, while others thought they had gone to explore other galaxies. People on Earth watched their screens in stunned silence as this information was shared globally. The idea that their ancestors had not only traveled the stars, but had been the galaxy's greatest civilization was almost too much to process. Parents hugged their children, wondering if the same potential for greatness flowed in their veins. The HFY explained how finding the lost star changed everything. This wasn't just a warship, it was proof that the legends were true. More importantly, it meant that humanity wasn't just another primitive species to be conquered. They were the heirs to the most powerful civilization the galaxy had ever known. The team in the Lost Star felt the weight of this revelation. Looking around at the ship's advanced technology, they'd realized they weren't just reading about history, they were sitting in it. Every panel, every system, every piece of technology around them had been built by their own ancestors, proof of what humanity was capable of achieving. Through the view screens, they could see the HFY fleet preparing to leave. The aliens were sending out urgent messages to their empire, spreading the word that Earth wasn't a target for conquest. It was the homeworld of the legendary Terran Empire, and its people were beginning to reclaim their heritage. As the team processed this incredible information, they began to understand that finding the lost star hadn't just saved Earth from invasion. They had unlocked humanity's greatest secret, that their small, blue planet wasn't just another world in a vast galaxy. It was the birthplace of a civilization that had once guided and protected countless species among the stars. And now, after thousands of years of sleeping under Europa's ice, that legacy had awakened once again. The moment the lost star appeared near Earth's orbit, everything changed. The team watched as the HFY ships suddenly stopped their threatening movements. Through the main view screen, they could see the alien vessels turning, their weapons powering down. The change was so sudden that at first, the team thought something had gone wrong with their sensors. The ship's AI started flashing urgent messages across their screens. The HFY weren't just stopping, they were backing away. The massive alien ships, which had seemed so unstoppable just moments ago, were retreating to a safer distance. It was like they'd seen a ghost, or maybe something they feared even more than that. And its military commanders couldn't believe what they were seeing. Their radar stations showed the alien fleet pulling back, breaking their attack formation. The HFY ships were moving with such urgency that they were almost bumping into each other. These supposedly unstoppable conquerors were acting like scared animals trying to get away from a predator. The team on the Lost Star realized something incredible. The aliens recognized their ship. The way they reacted, the instant change in their behavior, it all pointed to one thing. The HFY knew exactly what the Lost Star was, and they were terrified of it. This ancient human warship wasn't just powerful, it was legendary. Detailed scans from the alien fleet focused intensely on every part of the Lost Star. The team could see the energy pulses washing over their hull as the HFY tried to confirm what they were seeing. Each scan seemed to make the aliens more nervous. Their ships kept backing away, maintaining what looked like a very carefully calculated safe distance. The team received their first direct evidence of this when they managed to intercept communications between the alien ships. Though they couldn't understand the language, the ship's AI translated the general meaning. The aliens were sending urgent messages using words that translated to Ancient Ones and Guardians. They were talking about the Lost Star with what seemed like religious awe. Back on Earth, people were coming out of their homes, looking up at the sky in confusion and hope. The threatening alien ships that had filled them with dread were retreating, and in their place was something else. Something massive and beautiful, clearly built with human aesthetics in mind. The Lost Star's sleek design and graceful lines made it look more like a work of art than a warship. News channels worldwide were broadcasting live footage of the scene. Nobody knew what was happening, but everyone could see that something historic was taking place. The alien ships that had seemed so intimidating just hours ago now looked small and insignificant compared to the majestic presence of the Lost Star. The exploration team felt a surge of pride. They weren't soldiers or warriors, but they had managed to pilot this ancient vessel when Earth needed it most. The ship itself seemed to stand prouder too, its energy signatures becoming stronger, its systems running at full capacity for the first time in centuries. It was as if the Lost Star was announcing its return to the galaxy. As they watched the HFY fleet's confused retreat, the team began to understand just how much this moment would change everything. They hadn't just saved Earth from an alien invasion, they had revealed that humanity's history was far grander and more mysterious than anyone had imagined. The Lost Star wasn't just a powerful weapon, it was proof that humans had once been among the most advanced species in the galaxy. And now, that legacy had returned to protect Earth once again. With less than 24 hours left before the HFY's deadline, Earth's situation looked hopeless. Military leaders worldwide had run countless simulations, and every single one ended the same way. Earth's forces wouldn't last even an hour against the alien fleet. People everywhere were holding their loved ones close, watching the massive ships looming in the sky above their cities. The exploration team on Europa knew it was time to act. They had spent every waking moment learning the Lost Star systems, and now they had to try something that seemed impossible, bringing a hundreds of thousands years old spaceship up through kilometers of ice. The team's commander gathered everyone in the main control room for one final discussion. "We might not make it," they told the team honestly. "The ice above us is thick, and we've never moved anything this big before. But right now, we're Earth's only hope." Looking around the room, they saw determination in every face. These weren't soldiers or warriors. They were scientists, engineers, and explorers. But sometimes regular people have to become heroes when there's no other choice. They started the power-up sequence they'd practiced dozens of times. The Lost Star hummed to life, its ancient engines glowing with an energy that their instruments couldn't even measure. The ship's AI assistant, which they'd managed to partially understand, began running system checks. Everything was working perfectly, as if the ship had been waiting for exactly this moment. As they activated the main engines, something unexpected happened. The ice above them didn't just melt, it vaporized. The Lost Star had some kind of energy field around it that simply pushed the matter out of the way. They began to rise, slowly at first, then faster. The team members gripped their stations, watching in awe as layers of ice and water rushed past their view screens. Back on Earth, every sensor and telescope suddenly focused on Europa. Something massive was happening on Jupiter's moon. Energy readings were off the charts. The HFY noticed too. Their ships began turning, their weapons powering up as they detected the unexpected activity. The team felt a final shudder as the Lost Star broke through Europa's surface. For the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, the ancient warship touched space again. They had done it, but now came the hard part. They had to somehow get back to Earth in time, and none of them had ever piloted a spaceship before, let alone one this size. That's when the Lost Star surprised them again. The ship's AI seemed to understand the situation perfectly. Navigation systems came online automatically, plotting the fastest course to Earth. The engines, using technology that humanity had long forgotten, could cross the vast distance between Jupiter and Earth in hours instead of months. As they approached Earth's orbit, panic spread through the government and military channels. Nobody knew what this massive ship was or where it had come from. The team tried to send messages, but the chaos of the alien invasion made communication difficult. Everyone was focused on the HFY fleet, which now had less than 2 hours left on their deadline. The team watched their home planet grow larger on their screens, the alien ships now clearly visible against Earth's backdrop. They had studied the Lost Star's weapons, practiced with its systems, and done everything they could to prepare. But as they approached the massive alien fleet, every team member felt the weight of what they were about to do. They weren't just fighting for their own lives anymore, they were fighting for the survival of their entire species. What they didn't know was that the next few minutes would change not just the outcome of this invasion, but humanity's understanding of their place in the universe forever. As time grew shorter and the alien threat loomed over Earth, the exploration team made an incredible breakthrough in understanding the Lost Star. They discovered what looked like the ship's main weapons control room, filled with technology that made Earth's most advanced military equipment look like children's toys. The walls were lined with displays showing complex targeting systems and energy readings that went off their charts. The ship itself seemed to recognize their desperation. When they entered the weapons room, everything powered up automatically, and the ship's computer started displaying tutorials, almost like it knew they needed to learn quickly. The most amazing part: these weapons didn't use bullets or missiles. They used some kind of energy technology that could literally bend space itself. One discovery hit them particularly hard. In the ship's crew quarters, they'd found preserved DNA samples in the medical bay. After running tests, they couldn't believe the results. The genetic markers matched modern humans perfectly. This wasn't just an ancient human ship, it proved that their ancestors had once been far more advanced than anyone had ever imagined. Everything in the ship was built for human bodies. The control seats fit them perfectly. The displays were at exactly the right height for human eyes. Even the air the ship was now generating matched Earth's atmosphere exactly. It wasn't just coincidence. This ship had been built by their own people hundreds of thousands of years ago. The team worked non-stop, learning everything they could about the ship's systems. They found out the Lost Star wasn't just a warship, it was a fleet commander's vessel designed to lead entire armadas into battle. Its weapons could disable other ships without destroying them. Its shields could absorb almost any kind of attack. And its engines? They could cover distances that modern space travel could only dream of. Back on Earth, things were getting worse. The HFY had started showing off their power, easily destroying a few unmanned satellites just to prove they could. Military experts were saying what everyone already knew. Earth's weapons wouldn't even scratch the alien ships. The world's governments had started talking about surrender terms, hoping to at least save some lives. But the exploration team had found something else in the Lost Stars database: star maps and records of ancient battles. These records showed that humanity hadn't just been exploring space back then, they had been protecting it. The ship was part of something called the Guardian Fleet, meant to defend Earth and its allies from exactly the kind of threat they were facing now. The ship's medical bay turned out to be more advanced than any hospital on Earth. They found machines that could heal injuries in minutes and cure diseases that modern medicine still struggled with. It was like finding proof that humanity had already solved all their biggest medical challenges once before, only to somehow lose it all and have to start over. As they dug deeper into the ship's systems, they realized something else. The Lost Star wasn't just responding to them, it was adapting to them. The more they learned, the more it seemed to remember its original purpose. Systems that had been dormant for centuries were coming back online, updating themselves to work with their modern equipment. Time was running out, and the team knew they had to make a decision. They had the most powerful warship ever built by human hands, but they were just a small group of scientists and explorers, not soldiers or space fighters. Still, as they looked at the countdown to the HFY's deadline on their screens, they knew they had to try. What they didn't know was that bringing the Lost Star to the surface would do more than just give Earth a fighting chance. It would reveal secrets about humanity's past that would change everything. It happened on a regular Tuesday morning. People were going about their daily lives, heading to work, dropping kids at school, worrying about deadlines, when every TV channel, radio station, and phone screen worldwide suddenly switched to an emergency broadcast. The images that appeared made everyone stop in their tracks. Massive ships had appeared in Earth's orbit, unlike anything humans had ever built. The exploration team on Europa watched the news with growing concern. They'd been so focused on their ancient discovery that at first they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The alien ships were enormous, dark shapes against Earth's blue backdrop, their designs clearly showing they weren't from our world. The message from these visitors, who called themselves the HFY, was short and to the point. They'd been watching Earth for some time, they said, and had decided our planet would make a useful addition to their empire. They gave humanity 7 days to prepare for annexation. No negotiations, no discussions, just a simple statement of fact. World leaders rushed to emergency meetings. Military commanders looked at their options and found none. Earth's most advanced weapons seemed like toys compared to what their scans showed of the alien ships. People around the world reacted differently. Some panicked and rushed to stores, others held their families close, while many simply tried to continue their normal lives, not knowing what else to do. The exploration team on Europa felt the weight of this news differently than most. They were far from Earth, yes, but they were also sitting in what they now realized might be humanity's most advanced weapon. The Lost Star had been a warship after all. But could they figure out how to use it in time? Would it even work after all these years? The team's commander made a decision. They had to try something. While Earth's governments argued about how to respond to the alien threat, the exploration team worked around the clock, trying to understand more about the ancient ship's systems. They knew time wasn't on their side, but they also knew they might be humanity's only hope. What they didn't expect was how the Lost Star itself seemed to respond to their increased urgency. As if sensing the danger to its creator's descendants, more systems began activating automatically. Screens lit up showing what looked like weapons systems and defense capabilities. The ship was practically teaching them how to use it. One of the team members, the youngest of the group, figured out how to access what seemed to be the ship's combat training programs. These weren't just instruction manuals, they were full interactive simulations, teaching them everything they needed to know about handling the massive vessel. It was almost like the ship had been designed to be found exactly when humanity needed it most. Back on Earth, the anchors of those ships maintained their threatening position. The aliens seemed confident in their superiority, occasionally sending small scout ships down to scan different parts of the planet. They'd probably thought they'd seen everything humanity had to offer. They had no idea what was waiting under the ice of Europa. The exploration team kept their discovery quiet, knowing they needed the element of surprise. As the deadline approached, they worked tirelessly to understand the ancient warship's capabilities. Nobody said it out loud, but they all knew what was at stake, not just their own lives, but the freedom of everyone back on Earth. The countdown to the Encithor's deadline continued, and with each passing hour, the team grew more determined. They had no way of knowing that their next actions would not only save Earth, but would completely change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. Everyone on the exploration team felt it, that supple vibration running through the ancient ship's hull. At first, they thought it might be their own equipment, but soon realized the lost star itself was coming to life. It started with a low hum, barely noticeable, but growing stronger with each passing hour. The ship was awakening from its centuries-long sleep. The team's lead engineer noticed it first while checking some readings. "Look at this," they called out to their colleagues, pointing at their tablet. The energy readings were off the charts, but the strange thing was, they weren't providing any power to the ship. The lost star was generating its own energy from some power source they couldn't even begin to understand. Back on Earth, Mission Control was going crazy. The signals coming from Europa were unlike anything they'd ever seen. The ancient ship was sending out pulses that somehow passed right through the moon's thick ice layer like it wasn't even there. These weren't random emissions either. They followed a pattern, almost like a language. What happened next left everyone speechless. As the team explored deeper into the ship, the vessel's systems began responding to them. Door panels slid open at their approach. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing star maps and data in symbols that looked weirdly familiar, yet nobody could quite read them. It was as if the ship recognized them as human, even after all this time. The most mind-blowing moment came when they tried to access the ship's computer systems. Nobody expected their modern tablets and laptops to work with technology that was supposedly hundreds of thousands of years old. But they did. Not only did they connect, but it felt like the ancient systems were actually more advanced than their current technology. It was like plugging a smartphone into a quantum computer. The team discovered something else too. Throughout the ship, they'd found these smooth metal panels that responded to human touch. When they placed their hands on them, the panels would light up with a soft blue glow. DNA scanners, they realized. The ship was literally checking to see if they were human, and every time it recognized them as authorized personnel. Word of these discoveries spread quickly through the scientific community. Some people couldn't believe it was real. Others started developing theories about lost human civilizations and advanced ancient societies. But nobody could explain how such technology could have existed so long ago, or why there was no trace of it on Earth. The ship's automated systems continued waking up one by one. Lights came on in long dark corridors. Air circulation systems started working, though nobody had activated them. It was like the lost star was preparing itself for something. The team members would sometimes catch themselves holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. They found the ship's main control room 2 weeks into the exploration. It was massive, easily the size of a football field, with rows of control stations and a huge view screen covering one wall. When they stepped inside, everything lit up at once. The view screen showed what looked like status reports, and a gentle female voice spoke in a language nobody understood, yet somehow felt familiar. Nobody knew it then, but the lost star was doing more than just waking up. It was sending out signals that would be picked up by others out there in space. The team had no idea that their discovery was about to bring humanity face to face with something they never expected. The reality that we weren't alone in the universe, and some of those other civilizations knew exactly what this ship was. Deep beneath the icy surface of Jupiter's moon Europa, something extraordinary was waiting to be found. Nobody expected that day to change human history forever. The exploration team had been drilling through the thick ice for months, hoping to study the moon's underwater ocean. They were a group of regular people who'd trained for years for this mission, scientists and explorers who'd left their families back on Earth, chasing a dream of discovery. The team's lead researcher couldn't sleep that night. The drilling sensors had picked up something unusual, a perfectly geometric shape where there should have been nothing but rock and ice. At first, they'd thought their equipment was malfunctioning. How could there be anything artificial this deep under Europa's surface? As their underwater probe descended through the dark waters, everyone in the control room held their breath. The spotlights pierced through the murky depths, and suddenly there it was. The massive dark hull of something that shouldn't exist. A ship, but not like anything they'd ever seen before. It was huge, bigger than the largest aircraft carrier ever built on Earth, and it looked completely untouched by time. The team's excitement quickly turned to confusion and wonder. Their instruments were saying this thing was ancient, not just a few thousand years old, but hundreds of thousands of years. That was impossible. Humans hadn't even invented the wheel back then, let alone spaceship technology. Yet here it was, with markings that looked eerily similar to human writing systems. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community back on Earth. News channels couldn't stop talking about it. Social media exploded with theories and discussions. Regular people were trying to make sense of what this meant for human history. Were we wrong about everything we thought we knew about our past? The exploration team worked around the clock, carefully documenting everything. They found access panels that responded to their touch, almost as if the ship had been waiting for them. The most mind-blowing part? Their modern computers could connect to the ship's systems like they were made to work together despite being separated by thousands of centuries. As they explored more of the vessel, they started calling it the Lost Star, a name that captured both its mysterious nature and its connection to humanity's forgotten past. The ship's corridors were massive, built for human-sized beings, with control panels that fit human hands perfectly. It wasn't just similar to human technology, it was human technology just far more advanced than anything we'd ever created. The team came across what looked like sleeping quarters, mess halls, and command centers. Everything was preserved perfectly in Europa's cold waters. They'd found personal items too, things that could have belonged to the ship's crew, frozen in time. It felt less like exploring an alien artifact and more like walking through a piece of human history they never knew existed. But the real shock came when they reached what seemed to be the ship's bridge. As soon as they entered, soft lights began to glow, and gentle humming filled the air. The Lost Star was waking up, responding to human presence after sleeping for hundreds of thousands of years. None of them knew it yet, but this was just the beginning of something much bigger, something that would soon force them to face the reality that humans weren't alone in the universe, and maybe we never were. The team knew they had to proceed carefully. This wasn't just about making history anymore. They were uncovering secrets that could change humanity's understanding of their own story. As they set up their research base inside the massive ship, none of them could shake the feeling that they were being watched, not by anything threatening, but by the echoes of their own ancestors who had somehow mastered space travel at a time when Earth was supposed to be populated by early human species still learning to use basic tools.